welcome back to the channel. Recession. It seems like that's all anyone's talking about these days.
Yeah, between the yield curve and everything else, people are getting a little nervous.
Definitely. And, I think a lot of that fear stems from just not really understanding what the yield curve is or how it works.
Right, it can seem a little complicated at first.
It does, but it doesn't have to be. So basically, it's like a picture, a chart that shows us the difference in interest rates between short-term bonds, like ones that mature in a couple of years.
And long-term bonds, ones that mature in like 10 years or more.
Exactly. Now, usually those long-term bonds are going to have a higher interest rate. Makes sense.
You're tying up your money for longer, so you'd expect a higher return.
Exactly. But sometimes things get a little, weird.
Yeah, sometimes investors start to get nervous about the future. Maybe they sense a recession brewing, so they flock to the safety of those long-term bonds.
Even if the returns are lower.
Even if the returns are lower, they're prioritizing safety over big profits. And when that happens, when everyone's buying up those long-term bonds, the demand pushes the price up.
And that, in turn, drives the interest rate down.
Exactly. And suddenly you've got the situation where short-term rates are actually higher than long-term rates.
Which is the dreaded inverted yield curve.
The one everyone's so scared of.
Because historically, it's been a pretty reliable signal.
More often than not, when that yield curve flips, we see a recession on the horizon. Over half the time, a recession follows within a year. And to make matters worse, it's preceded every single one of the last 8 U.S. recessions.
So why, though? Why does that happen? What's the connection between what's going on with those bonds and the real economy?
Well, one theory is confidence. Or rather, lack of confidence. When those long-term rates fall below the short-term rates, it's kind of like a vote of no confidence in the future.
So businesses see that, they get hesitant to invest, consumers get worried, and they start cutting back on spending. And it can become, a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah, exactly. Things slow down because people expect them to slow down.
Okay, so that makes sense. But wait a minute. Didn't the yield curve recently uninvert?
It did.
So shouldn't that be a good thing? Back to normal? Everything's fine.
You'd think so, but historically, recessions actually often begin after that uninversion happens.
So the all-clear signal is actually, a warning sign? That seems counterintuitive.
It does, but think about it this way. The economy might already be slowing down even before the yield curve flips back.
Yeah.
And the Federal Reserve, they see those early warning signs, so they step in, start cutting interest rates.
Trying to stimulate growth, avoid a full-blown recession.
Exactly. And cutting those rates makes short-term rates fall faster than long-term rates. So the yield curve goes back to normal, but the underlying weakness in the economy might still be there.
It's like you're hitting the brakes on a car that's already skidding on ice.
Yeah.
You might stop this skid, but you're still in a very precarious situation.
Perfect analogy. And this isn't just theoretical. We saw this happen recently. Just this past September, the U.S. Treasury yield curve uninverted.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the 10-year Treasury yield ended up at 3.72%, and the 2-year yield at 3.65%.
Okay, so what does that mean exactly?
Well, that difference, that's a spread of just 7 basis points, and a basis point is just 1/100th of a percentage point. So that tiny spread, it's actually pretty similar to what we've seen before previous recessions.
So are you saying we should be worried?
I'm saying we should be paying attention. There are definitely some historical parallels that are, a little concerning.
I can see why people are nervous. So is there any reason to think maybe this time will be different?
There are a few factors that could potentially change this pattern. First, the Fed has been taking some pretty dramatic action lately.
Also.
Well, they ended their quantitative tightening program that was essentially pulling money out of the economy.
Okay.
And on top of that, they cut interest rates back in October.
So they're trying to get ahead of things.
Exactly. Stimulate growth, prevent things from getting worse. And here's another interesting twist. After they cut rates, the 10-year Treasury yield actually rose.
So even though the Fed is trying to lower rates, investors aren't reacting the way they normally would.
Right. Usually when the Fed cuts rates, everyone piles into long-term bonds and the yields go down. But this time, it seems like investors might be betting that the economy is a bit stronger than we think.
Interesting. So maybe they know something we don't.
It's possible. But there are some other bright spots, too. The job market, it's still looking pretty strong.
That's good.
Yeah, we've seen some healthy job growth recently. And consumer spending, which is a huge part of the economy, that's holding up pretty well, too.
So you're saying it's not all doom and gloom?
Exactly. There are definitely some reasons to be, cautiously optimistic. But we do need to be aware of the historical precedent and, be prepared in case things do take a downturn.
Which brings us to the big question. Is there anything out there that could potentially, I don't know, save us from this looming recession?
Well, there is one factor that could completely change the game, and that's artificial intelligence.
AI.
AI. It has the potential to completely transform the economic landscape in ways we've never really seen before. We're already seeing it in certain industries, finance, professional services, places that are really embracing AI. And they're experiencing growth rates 5 times higher than industries that are slower to adopt it.
5 times higher. That's incredible. What's driving that kind of growth?
It all comes down to productivity. AI can supercharge productivity in a way that nothing else can. It can automate all those routine tasks, freeing up human workers to focus on more, complex things.
So instead of just crunching numbers, people can focus on strategy, innovation.
Exactly. And AI can also analyze massive amounts of data way faster than any human. So it can spot patterns, trends, potential problems, and that can lead to much better decision-making, not just in business, but in government too.
So it's like having a crystal ball for the economy.
In a way, yeah. And it goes even beyond just preventing recessions. AI can help us build a more resilient economy overall. Think about climate change, for example. That's one of the biggest challenges we face.
Right.
AI can help us develop clean energy solutions, optimize resource use, actually reduce our carbon footprint.
So AI is almost like a superhero swooping in to save the day.
It has that potential. But it's important to remember it's still a relatively new technology. There's a lot we still don't know about its long-term impact.
Right. We can't just flip a switch and suddenly have a perfect AI-powered world. What about the downsides? There have to be some.
Of course. One of the biggest concerns is job displacement. As AI automates more tasks, some jobs are inevitably going to be lost.
Right. That's the big fear a lot of people have, the robots taking over.
And it's a valid concern. But it's important to look at the bigger picture. While some jobs will be lost, new ones will be created too. Jobs in AI development, management, ethics, it'll be a shift, not a complete takeover. The key is to adapt, learn the skills that are going to be in high demand in this new AI-driven world.
So it's not a job apocalypse, more like a job evolution.
Exactly. And there's another potential downside we need to be aware of. The adoption of AI is probably going to be uneven. Some industries, some regions are going to benefit much more than others.
Creating a kind of digital divide.
Potentially. And that could actually worsen existing economic inequalities and lead to new social tensions.
So AI could be both a solution and a problem.
It all depends on how we develop it, how we implement it. It's a powerful tool, but like any tool, it can be used for good or for ill. The choices we make now are going to have a huge impact on the future.
So AI, powerful tool, potential for good and bad. But how do we actually use it to navigate this potential recession? Can it really help us come out stronger on the other side?
Well, one way AI could really make a difference is by tackling some of those classic recession triggers.
Like what?
Well, for example, even when demand is slowing down, AI can help businesses become more efficient, more productive.
So instead of just cutting costs and waiting for the storm to pass, they can actually use AI to innovate their way out.
Exactly. AI can help businesses identify and manage risks more effectively, too. AI can analyze huge amounts of data, way more than humans can handle, so it can spot problems early on, supply chain issues, shifts in consumer behavior, even financial risks.
Like an early warning system for the economy.
Yeah, think it that way. And with that early warning, businesses and governments can take action, to prevent a small problem from snowballing into a full-blown recession.
So it's not just about preventing recessions, though, right? AI could actually help us build a more resilient economy long-term.
Absolutely. We've been talking about climate change, and that's a perfect example. AI can play a huge role there, developing clean energy, optimizing resource use.
And that way we can have, a strong economy that's also sustainable.
Exactly. And let's not forget healthcare. AI can revolutionize how we diagnose and treat diseases, develop new drugs. All of that leads to a healthier population, lower healthcare costs, and that has a huge positive impact on the economy.
It seems like AI has the potential to, to touch every part of our lives, really change everything.
It really does. But with all this talk about potential, it's important to remember that AI isn't magic.
Right. It's not like we can just plug it in and all our problems disappear. What about the limitations?
Well, for starters, AI is only as good as the data we feed it. And if that data is biased or incomplete, the AI's output is going to be flawed.
Garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly. We also have to remember that AI can make mistakes. It's not perfect. So we can't just blindly trust AI, especially when it comes to important decisions. Humans still need to be in the loop.
So it's not about replacing human intelligence, but working with it, augmenting it.
Right. It's about finding that balance between human and artificial intelligence.
Which brings up another big question, the future of work. If AI is going to change everything, what does that mean for people's jobs, their careers? What skills are going to matter most in an AI-driven world?
That's a question everyone needs to be thinking about. The jobs of the future are going to look very different from the jobs of the past. All those routine, repetitive tasks, those are the ones that are most likely to be automated.
So those skills, they're going to become less valuable.
Unfortunately, yes. The skills that are going to be in demand are the ones that are uniquely human. Creativity, critical thinking, problem solving, emotional intelligence, the things machines can't do.
So it's not just about hard skills, it's about those soft skills, those human skills.
Exactly. And those are skills that you can learn, you can develop. It's all about embracing lifelong learning, being willing to adapt to new challenges.
So even though there's a lot of change coming, we still have control over our own future.
Absolutely. The future isn't set in stone. We have the power to decide how we want to use AI, how we want to shape the world. And that's a responsibility we should all take seriously.
I think that's a really important point. But all this change can be a little overwhelming. What's the one key takeaway you want people to remember?
Be informed, be adaptable, and be proactive. Don't be afraid of change. Embrace it, learn from it, and use it to your advantage.
I love that. Don't fear the future, shape it.
Exactly. And don't forget, AI is a tool. It's up to us to use it wisely.
Well said. This has been an incredible conversation. So for everyone listening, what does this all mean for you? What can you do to prepare for this AI-driven future?
Well, first of all, don't panic. Even if we do hit a recession, economies go through cycles. Downturns are normal. The important thing is to be prepared. If you're worried, build up your emergency fund, pay down debt, diversify your investments. And when it comes to AI, remember, be a lifelong learner. Those in-demand skills, they can change overnight. So embrace new technology, stay curious, and be willing to adapt. Don't wait for the world to change around you. Go out and change it yourself.
Experiment, try new things, take online courses.
Exactly. Network with people, learn new skills. The more you expose yourself to new ideas and experiences, the better prepared you'll be.
That's a great point. It's about taking control of your own future. And remember, AI is a tool. We get to decide how we use it.
Right. It's our responsibility to make sure AI is used ethically, responsibly, and in a way that benefits everyone.
That's a great message to end on. We've covered a lot today. The economy, AI, the future of work. It's a lot to think about. But remember, the conversation doesn't end here. Keep exploring these ideas, challenge your assumptions, and let's work together to create the future we want.
It's been a pleasure.
And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us. We hope you found this as insightful as we did. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this content.